Well, I interpret this part, like I say, from the standpoint of Davis's role in history, not just the Civil War, because there was a lot of things that Davis did before the Civil War ever happened that left a great impact on this country. So when we do interpretation here, we do his entire life. It's not necessarily a Confederate site, it's his birthplace site. So we tell his whole life history.
It's not a part of my history. It's a part of the history that was in this country that I did not stand for. So I wouldn't tell them to tear it down, because it's not offensive to me, because I'm not a slave, and I hated slavery. I hate what the Confederacy stood for. But I wouldn't go around tearing down everything that I felt offensive.
We do interpretive history, not only of Jefferson Davis before, during, and after the Civil War, but other portions of the Civil War period as well. For example, we've done living history for the Ladies of Freed, who are African-American ladies come out of Washington, D.C., and they came down and they do a program on the women at home, the black women at home during the war. So we do more than just Jefferson Davis and the Civil War. We try to tell the complete story.
To me, it's just an obelisk. I don't celebrate it. I don't enshrine it. I just drive by it and say, man, it's a tall piece of concrete.
And the funny thing about it is the only roses on the whole base was in front of the commanding officer's office. So those are the only roses on the base. So that was June of 1972. Well, ironically, June of 1972, I was going through Marine Corps boot camp. And so I graduated in September of 72 and transferred on over to Camp Lejeune in the 6th Marines over there, and went through my advanced infantry training school there. Then after I got out of school, one day I was in the gym playing basketball. My cousin went in with me. We went on a buddy plan. And I was in the gym playing basketball, and he came and he said, hey, First Sergeant says we've got orders. I said, okay, fine. So I left and got ready, and we went over to the First Sergeant and everything, and there was a Marine in front of me, and he was telling the First Sergeant, you can't send me overseas because I'm only 17. And First Sergeant looked at his records, he goes, yeah, you're right, I can't send you. So when I walked up there, I said, First Sergeant, you can't send me overseas, I'm only 17, because I was 17. And he looked at my records, he goes, yeah, but you're going to be 18 in November. So I got my orders and everything, and my cousin got his orders, and we looked at our orders, and I said, man, something's wrong here. He goes, what? I said, your order says Okinawa, Japan, and mine says Iwakuni, Japan. And Iwakuni, Japan is an aviation base. And I'm going, why are they sending an infantry guy to an aviation base? And so, bigger than nothing, on my 18th birthday, I was on a flight going to Iwakuni, Japan, on November 15th, on my 18th birthday. And so I get to Iwakuni, Japan, and for the first week I'm there, all I did was got up, cleaned up the barracks, and by 10:30, I was off for the rest of the day. I said, well, I can do 13 months like this. You know, and then a week later, one of the sergeants there, because, you know, I was the E2 at the time, one of the sergeants there, he goes, sit north, he said, pack your trash, you're going down south. I said, down south? What's down south? And so next thing I know, I'm a C-141 airliner jet, and about 8 hours later, we were descending, and I looked out the window, and all I saw was jungle, concertina ware, a runway, and wooden hoochies. And I said, oh my God, they're gonna send me to a combat zone. And so I landed there, and when they did the assignments and everything, the MP unit had been depleted with everybody transferring back to the States. So I ended up being placed in the MP unit, became the MP. And as an MP, you know, we patrolled the cantonment area, which is the living areas. And we, with K9s, we patrolled out in the jungle. And we also stood post on the front, well, it was only one gate, on the gate coming in to the base. And then we also had additional duties where we had to stand guard at the clubs on the base and enforce the rules and regulations. For example, if if they're in the club, they can't have their hats on. And so, it's something that simple, we have to go up and tell them to take their hats off. And so that started me off in November. In December, because I also worked in the brig, which is the jail. Well, we had a prisoner in there, African-American prisoner, and and somebody had to escort him to the mess hall to eat. And so at first, the lieutenant was going to have this white Marine escort him to the mess hall to eat, and all the black Marines go, "Sir, you know what you asking?" So he ain't gonna make it, and we told him, said, it's gonna be bad enough if you send one of us to escort him there to eat. And well, yours truly got selected to escort him to the mess hall to eat. And so my orders were he's not to talk to anybody. So we get there and everything, and so we're in the chow line and stuff, and so, other African Americans came up, and back then, as you know, they did the dap thing, right? And they came up and they wanted to dap, they call it checking in. They wanted to dap, and I told them, I said, I'm sorry, you can't do it. And they looked at me like, what? And so they backed off, we went in and got our food, and we sat down to eat, and after we finished eating, when you go out of the mess hall, you go into like a little patio, screened-in patio where the garbage cans were. So we got in there, out there, and then when I looked up, there was about 15 people. You got the door here, and they had made a circle around the door like this. I'm going, oh gosh, here we go. And so when we got to the door, the guy tried to make a dash, and I put my nightstick across the door to stop him. And the guys out there in the group goes, you might as well put that nightstick away. You ain't going to use it. I said, yeah, you're right. So I put the nightstick away, and by this time, we done walked out, and they don't complete the circle. And I put my hand on my 45. And one of them said, that's right, go ahead and pull it. Okay. They made a big hole. And all the way back to the brig, and the prison goes, oh, that's wrong, man. That's wrong. You shouldn't have pulled, you didn't have to pull that gun out on them. I said, yeah, right. 15 of them and one of me. Do you know what would have happened to me if I hadn't have done that? Yeah. And so when I got back to the brig, I told the lieutenant what had happened and everything. So I had to write a statement as to what happened, and it all went away. Well, the next time I had duty at the club, and I walked in, I heard some blacks over there at the table, and I heard them, one of them whistle, said, that's that brother that pulled a gun out on those brothers yesterday. I'm going, here we go. And so one of them said, watch this, and he put his hat on. And I said, you need to take your hat off. And he acted like he didn't hear me. And I told him again, and he acted like he didn't hear me. I said, well, you know what? You got 5 seconds to take your hat off. If not, I'm taking you. And he took his hat off. He said, dang! And so after that, the next time I went to each child myself, I had a couple of them come up to me and tell me, said, we got a contract out on you. And over there, $10 will get you knocked off. And when they first told me that, it bothered me. I started shaking and stuff, and then after a while, I said, forget this. And so the next time I went to child, they came up with the same thing. Well, we got a contract. I said, what's the matter? You're not man enough to do it yourself? And after that, they left me alone. But part of our duties there as well was some of us in the MPs got temporarily assigned to Udon Air Force Base to work town patrol with the security police, Air Force security police. And so I was fortunate enough in January to get transferred to Udon Air Force Base for 3 months. And so when we went out in town patrol, you had myself, an Air Force SP, and a top policeman. Because the top policeman was the only one that could carry a firearm. The rest of us could only carry a nightstick. And so because we were in a martial law. And so we was out there, and one night we were sitting there talking and stuff, and all of a sudden on the radio it said gray alert, report to the base immediately. Gray alert means the base has been attacked. And so we beat feet back to the base and everything, and as soon as we got the headquarters there, issued out, back then it was AR-15s. And they're issuing out AR-15s and magazines and stuff. My pockets were loaded down with magazines, and I got this AR-15. I'm going, I'm on 18. I'm too young for this. And so they took us out to the perimeter around the base and stuff. And what had happened was before that, there was a Thai soldier out there patrolling the perimeter, and he had a dog. And the dog started barking. And if it hadn't been for the dog barking, we never would have known we were being attacked. And when he looked up and saw it, he called it in, and they shot and killed him right after he called it in. And that alerted the base. So we get out there, and we're on the perimeter and stuff, and we had a 50 cal machine gun, and nobody knew how to fire this 50 cal machine gun. There was a old Air Force cook who had fired the machine gun back when he was younger. And so he got on the 50 cal machine gun, and it took him a minute to figure it out. And we were, just shooting and fighting and like I don't know what. And then next thing you know, that 50 cal started talking, and that turned the tide. We repelled him. And so, we come back and everything goes to normal and everything. And so we go back out in the town on our next tour of duty and stuff. And so when we were out there in town, basically our job is to go around to all the clubs and go in the clubs, make sure everything is okay and that type of thing. Because they had set clubs that the Americans could go to. So we would go in the clubs and make sure everything is okay. So we went into this one club called the Jump In. And we went and made our rounds in the club. And we came out of the club and we went to step up in the Jeep, and this loud explosion in the club, and all this stuff just flew out the door that we had just come out of. What happened was a Vietnamese sympathizer had went in there and was strapped with explosives and blew himself up in the club. And we had just walked out of there. And so we had to call that in, and they secure the area until they sent people out to investigate and find out what had happened and everything. But one of the other places that we patrolled out there, a place called the Paradise Hotel. And the Paradise Hotel had a pool. And when all the clubs in town closed, well, the pool stayed open 24 hours a day, and it had a bar. So everybody go to the pool and drink. And so we had to go and patrol there after all the clubs closed. And I mean, it was a great time. I mean, even though we were in a combat zone, it was, I loved it. It's one of the places that they gave me a ticket today, I'd go back. But, so we, about a week or two after that attack of the base, we're sitting out there in town again, and we get another gray alert to return to base. And the Air Force guy reaches up and he turns the radio off. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm not going back there." And he's the guy with the keys and everything. So, so we sat there and we watched. And this time they attacked the base with rockets, and all you could see was these rockets coming in, and all you could hear was and explosion and everything all over the place. And I'm sitting there, I'm shaking my head, and then when it was over with, we went to the base after the attack was over, we saw dead bodies laying all over the place, and it was kind of mind blowing, especially being that young and seeing it. And then in March of '73, I went back to Nam Phuong, the Marine base, in late March, I went in front of a promotion board, and I came out number one on the promotion board, so I got meritoriously promoted to E3 and on April the 1st. And then about 2 weeks after that, we had a problem with infiltrators cutting holes in our perimeter wire, coming in trying to get to the airstrip. And so my battalion commander, I must have had a dark cloud over me or something, because he picked me to go out there with a radio, an M16, and hide in the darkness and wait for these people to come and start cutting a hole in the perimeter. And he told me, he said, "Now there's another Marine down there." He said, "What you do is you wait until they've almost cut through the perimeter, then you get a hold of that Marine to come and help you, and you call in for help." Well, there was 7 of them showed up. And when they were almost through cutting through the perimeter, I tried to find another Marine, couldn't find him nowhere. And I tried the radio was dead. You know how those PR-25s The radio was dead. And I'm going, oh, great. Well, oh me, 18, full of vinegar. I challenged them. 5 of them had come through. The other 2 ran off, and I caught the 5. And I took them in, and you could see in their face, it's only one of them. And I'm saying to myself, you're stupid. You're stupid. And so but I took them in, took them to the brig, and they locked them up there and everything. And the battalion commander put me in for a medal, and I ended up getting the cross, the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry as a personal award, because it's also given as a unit award. And today I call it my stupid award. Yeah. So, but you know, everything went back to normal pretty much. And so we're patrolling the cantonment area, and me and this dog handler with his dog. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget the dog's name. The dog name was Rowley. And well, we're out there, and the dog handler passes out. And I tried to get to him, and the dog would not let me at him, because they're trained to protect their handlers. And he would not let me near him. And so I called in and told him, I said, hey, look, the handler passed out, and the dog won't let me near him. And they said, well, give him 5 minutes. If he don't come through, shoot the dog and get him. And lucky for the dog, he came through in 3 minutes.